Attention! The National Weather Service has issued a hurricane warning for the entirety of the National Hockey League. Please stay tuned for further information from the Storm Cellar.
Welcome back to the Storm Cellar. It's been a month or so, I think, and Ray's not even here, so it's just Brad. Brad has the whole place to himself pretty much, except we have today, Madeline is here. It's MadsArt, is how people probably know you, or just Mads, I think is the way most people refer to you. So
Yep.
Welcome. How are you today?
Thank you for having me on. I'm
Absolutely.
doing very well, even better now.
We always kind of dive right in, right? Our focus when we have guests on is on our guests. You're mostly, I think, known to most of us as an artist, and you have put out some amazing pieces. So before we get into hockey, why don't we start with art? Because I'm assuming art predated hockey. Is that
Yes.
a fair assumption? So let's
Very
start
much
with art and kind of how you got into art, and then kind of how that, how hockey maybe came into that and transitioned and came together, if that works.
That works perfect.
Okay, yeah. Wherever you want to
so I have always been kind of into the art thing. When I was little, my dad used to call me Doodlebug, and he still does, but that's like my nickname because I would draw all the time. And so that's just always been a thing for me. As far as wanting to do it for a career and taking it seriously, I honestly didn't know that was a thing. Yeah, like you see animations and books, but for some reason it just never pieced in my mind that this is a real career. Like people are making money doing this. And so in high school, I was very, very much into My Chemical Romance, and the lead singer Gerard Way also does comic books. And so I, through listening to My Chemical Romance, wanted to know anything I could about the band and anything I could about each of their little projects. And I just kind of stumbled into the comic books, and I loved the relatability that was found in the characters. And like with Umbrella Academy, the main character in that, I found like such a relation to, and I just loved that ability to do so through storytelling, using illustration. And once I found out that was like something that was possible, I was like, yes, this is what I want to do. So went to college at UNC Charlotte with this whole grand idea that I was going to do comic books. That was my whole plan. And so me and my dad would go to the comic store every so often and buy like this massive stack. And I'm pretty sure that I didn't actually read them, which sounds bad. I read the ones for Harley Quinn. I loved her character a lot. But usually it was just me flipping through and looking at the different styles and seeing just how different the variations were. Once I actually got into a setting where there were other people doing the illustration thing and they also wanted to do comics, I was like, maybe maybe this is like, I don't know. I'm kind of a person that will compare myself to others a lot, especially just starting out. That was a big thing, and my style I felt wasn't really at the par where I wanted it to be. So then I still wanted to do art, but I wasn't sure what exactly that was going to look like for me. And so I took a painting class, a traditional painting with oils, and I loved the way it felt. I loved being able to do the brush strokes and have that control and being able to change like how heavy it was or how loose it was. And then with my program, I was able to do figure painting and have a real live model like stand in. And having those sessions, I just fell in love with painting people and just being able to do that. So that's kind of where I changed direction and got more of my painterly style, and choosing to do people.
And when we were growing up, if you didn't know what you want to do by 18 or 19 years old, the idea was you were behind the eight ball. You were going to be working at McDonald's. Not that that's a terrible thing, but just like the idea was like you could not succeed. And now, I didn't graduate college until I was in my 30s because I left school and I didn't know what to do. And it took me 20 years to go back and finish. And because I finally had an idea. And I think it's wonderful that you started kind of one place and then you were kind of pursuing it. But then like, oh, like this maybe isn't quite the thing I want to do.
Right.
But you kind of, took a path, but that led you to where you kind of seem to be doing now. And
Yeah.
and how does hockey come into that? Because we've had Hurricanes as a group, and I think maybe hockey in general, there's some really amazing artists within the Caniac community that just does
Absolutely.
fantastic work. And I love to see what I love when I see on Twitter and in Facebook where, people are making sales, right? They're able to maybe not make a full living all the time, a full-time living, but at least a part-time. They're able to, to sell their art and that people are buying it and willing to pay for it, which is fantastic. So can you talk about the intersection of that a little bit?
Absolutely. And going off of what you just said, as a creator, it feels absolutely like surreal to be able to share that work and people actually want it. You know what I mean? It's just something I never really imagined. As far as finding hockey, it's kind of crazy because I had never watched sports in my life, had never cared for sports. Like when I was younger, my dad would play Madden in football. And so he would like quiz me on knowing the football teams, but that's pretty much as far as my knowledge of sports went. I didn't really care for it. And when I was in college, I would go to this Bible study, and the people that hosted it were huge Caniacs. They were very, very huge Caniacs. And playoff season started. And the night of our Bible study, there was also a playoff game happening. And they text our group chat and they were like, hey, we're actually moving the meeting forward so that we don't miss any of the game. You guys can stay. Yeah. And they were saying that we could stay for the game after, but that was the adjustment. That was final. And so I went. And when I got there, I was usually the first person there because I hate parking. And I wanted to make sure I had my spot like marked out. But I get to their house and they came out wearing their jerseys and they had like some little decor set up. And for me, I was like, wow, they take this seriously, which I should have already known that, but
right.
it was very sweet. So we go through the Bible study, and then as soon as it finishes, they're popping on the playoff game. And I was like, okay, I'll sit for a little bit because I'm getting to bond with my group here. I'm getting to learn something new. I'll stay. And just the energy that they had towards watching it. I remember one of them was yelling at Nino. I don't know what he was doing, but she was yelling at him. And I just was so like intrigued by the passion for the sport. And I had no idea what was going on. I truly didn't understand anything. Didn't know where the puck was at most of the time, but it just it was so
it's tough when you're
intense.
New, right?
Yeah, and it was so fast. So I ended up leaving, I don't know, at some point. It got there's a whole story about getting back home that night, but when I got back, the game should have been over in my mind. And I got to my dorm, was really tired, and it was still on. And I said, oh my God, it's still going. So I ended up finishing out the game. And I told myself in that moment, I was like, I've committed this much time to it tonight. It's enjoyable enough. I'm just gonna watch until they're done, and then I'm done with this and I can move on with my life. That was a lie. Yeah, that was a complete lie. They got knocked out, and then I was like, I'm not ready to give up just yet. So I just kept watching. And the next season is when I started bringing it into my artwork. That was my senior semester. So I had a lot of intense like finals, a lot of intense projects going on. and I just needed some form of stress relief to get me through. And that ended up showing out in the way of making the fan art. And it started with it was this little card for Aho. It was Christmas themed, and it was like Aho 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 with Sebastian and little Santa hats. And at that point, Hala was also on the team. So there was one that said Happy Holidays. Yeah. And I had posted
That's an antique
those.
now.
Yeah.
That's retired. That's out of print, I'm assuming.
Yeah, very much so. Maybe out of view as well, but I posted those to maybe Instagram. I'm not really sure, but people found it and they loved it, and they were like, I would buy this. Can we get on a shirt? And I was like, no, not right now.
No,
But I mean, I might draw some more people. And so I ended up doing that, and that became my stress relief. And also, not only that, but it helped me learn more about the game. It helped me draw into those players and kind of learn or keep interest when games weren't happening, and just gave me something to kind of look forward to.
that's
It was really
awesome.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
But it was funny
Wait,
because that semester I couldn't like actually watch the games. Our TV had it like blacked out, so I was just sitting in my in my studio space, like listening on the radio. And again, I had no real idea of like what plays looked like, and so I would just hear these like Svetch's name I would hear all the time, and certain names you hear all the time, and that's how I was like, okay, nice. That's a person I want to keep in mind and keep following. And yeah, I don't know.
That feels like that would be for an artist. That feels like maybe that would be a cool intro to hockey, though, because it's a visual medium, right? So you're having to come up with these things, and obviously, with a lot of your hockey things, you're replicating the things you see. But it feels like until you know what Svechnikov looks like, right? You're unbound, right? He could be whatever you want. I mean, that's what that would be. Going back to the comic book thing, like I feel like there is a comic book to be made of that story.
Oh, that would have been
starting
so
with
neat.
like Bible study hockey something comic book would be amazing, I think, for some folks.
That would be something to dive into.
Right? As far as the team goes, it sounds like that was probably a couple of years ago. Obviously, with Eric Hall on the team, it's been 4-ish years ago. How much of your art probably revolves around hockey now? Like, is a lot of your art hockey centric now, or is it still kind of an offshoot? Or, how intertwined are those things now for you?
It's very interesting because it comes in waves. Honestly, I think now, since that's where most of the people know me, they know me for doing hockey work. So a lot of the stuff that I produce is hockey related. However, in my mind, sometimes I don't want that. And so then there was this point where I kind of not got burned out, but I kind of got irritated with it in a way. I was doing some job searching, and there's just a lot of you're growing up, you're learning new things, you're going through life, and I was coming to the realization that that might not be what everyone wants, and so it just brought me to this place of what do I want to create. And so I do love creating hockey work, but I realized that sometimes I was limiting myself in that regard, and limiting myself to sometimes literally just the hurricanes, because that's something that I'm really interested in. I would just do the canes, and I don't know, it was just a moment where you come into this clash of like personal interest and business interest, which it gets complicated when it like that becomes your job. So there was a little bit of frustration for me personally when I'm making artwork for myself. I love storytelling through kind of like mundane moments in life, and it also usually isn't digital work, which is mostly what the hockey work tends to be. I love creating just scenes of people interacting. In college, we had to do our senior project or not a senior project, but our like self-led project for the painting class, we got to choose anything. And I ended up doing this series on how people interact on public transportation, actually, and how it's something that we use so much is in our life, but there's these little interactions that just kind of go missed. And so I was kind of focusing on body language and use of technology and what that looks like. And so that's usually what I like to do for myself. Probably what I would maybe introduce more, something that I really want to start introducing again. I also really like music. Music is a huge thing for me. And so I like listening to, yeah, I like listening to lyrics and just kind of visualizing what that would look like or what that would look like as a scene. And yeah.
And to go back to your point, it feels like a lot of artists, as I am not, have that, like, you don't want to be almost like typecast. Like,
yeah.
Oh, like she's a hockey artist. Like that's all she does. It's like, no, what she doesn't. Like she does lots of things.
Yeah.
You don't want to be kind of put in there. I don't have that problem because I don't even draw stick figures well. So that's not a problem.
That's okay. Honestly,
Ray and I joke. It's like, we both have, a face for radio. And so,
no.
for an hour every couple of weeks, people actually turn to listen to it. We appreciate everybody who's listening, by the way, because, when we started this, we were like, if 10 people listen, like that'll be amazing. And now we have a couple hundred people who listen generally on any given week. So it's really kind of cool that, and what's fun for Ray and I are bringing people like yourself on who people might know a little bit about, or, they see what you put on social, but, we get to talk a little bit and find out like, well, what makes you tick? I'm sure there'll be people who listen to this and are like, oh, like I thought she just did hockey stuff. Like what else does she do? Right. Getting this around to hockey a little bit. So do you have a favorite player? We always like everybody's
yeah.
Some people don't have one, some people have a few, but like is there a standout?
So when I first started following, Svetch was definitely the player I picked up, and I was like, this is my favorite. Svetch is great. However, as I've kind of gone more in my hockey journey and gotten to watch the team and like know them, Marty Necas. I had a moment. I don't know if it was last season or the season before, but he just was going through his little slump. And on Twitter, there were like, I remember it so distinctly. Someone had made a poll and they had said, okay, who do we want to trade? And it was like Shay, Martine, and I don't know who else. But I clicked on one. I have no idea who, but I saw that Martine was leading, and that was the first time that I ever felt I felt my heart drop, and I was like, I'm not sure I really like that. And I think that was also the first time that I was kind of hit with the reality that a player that I enjoyed could be gone. I was not happy, but then he obviously didn't get traded, and last season he had a really great run. Absolutely. And seeing that character development and seeing that progress and him push himself, he kind of solidified himself as one of my favorites.
There's the Marty Necas comic book. I'm just saying there are things here for you, Mads.
Definitely.
Favorite Canes moment? Is there, whether it was like the day you were like I'm hooked on hockey for this, or I don't know if you were like the stadium series or something. Is there a particular game or day or player or something that made you go, oh, this is just something special?
Oh man,
it's a tough one. I know for
a
lot
a
of
tough
people,
one.
Right?
There's so many different moments that I'm just like, my heart. Oh man.
I'll give you time to think.
Thank you.
So my son's, I think, is we were in North Carolina for the Stadium Series, scored tickets to the Hall of Fame game on Canmore night, and I've told this story before. My son and I have been talking about how the Canes have been scoring shorthanded more so than on the power play. So the whole night, my son is like, Jarvis is going to get a hat trick. Jarvis is going to get a hat trick. So they go shorthanded, there at the end, and he's like, he's going to score a hat trick, and I'm like, buddy, that just doesn't happen, right? Shorthanded goals are rare. Shorthanded
Yeah.
hat-trick goals are like never, like, one a year or something maybe.
Mhm.
And when Jarvis scored that goal, I just looked at like, yeah, that was all you, man.
Oh.
He's been saying it for 55 minutes. Like it's so that was one of ours from this year.
Oh, that's so sweet. I'm glad that he has that power too.
I know, right? I should
We
take him
need
to
to
all the
start
games I
channeling
can,
that a
right?
little. Yeah. I want to say that for me, it was probably my first game. My parents got it for me as a graduation gift. They got us all tickets to go, and just being able to be there in person and just everything is so exciting. And it's obviously so different than watching it on your tiny little screen
Hmm.
or hearing it
There's
over
a
the
feeling
radio.
to it, right?
Yes.
There's a
And
palpable energy when you're actually there that's just unmatched, I think.
yes. And just so many things about that night are just very, very wonderful. Also, Stadium Series was very magical indeed. I think about that one a lot too.
That was
Um,
fantastic. They really
that
did a
was,
tremendous job.
yes, I was really excited for the marching band being included. I was hoping the whole time, I was like, I hope that they bring them in, and they did. And I was just, yes. But
Yeah, I think this was a really special season. 25th year, the Hall of Fame game,
yeah,
Stadium Series, that playoff run. I mean, how it ended wasn't ideal, but I think overall, like, just an amazing season. And 25
yeah.
years in Carolina for me is, over half my life the Hurricanes now have been in Raleigh. Longer than
Hmm.
they were in Hartford, longer than they were in Boston by an extended period. And I think it's really amazing to see how the fans have grown and how many people are just casual fans, but really get into
Yeah.
it. That this team is really well set up for the future. I mean, not
Hmm.
just with the team itself, with the roster, but with the owner, with the fans, with just
Yes.
the community relationship. I think that the team has with the fans is just second to none. It really is.
Hmm. Yeah. And it's also seeing how other people that aren't even like concerning themselves with the Canes, really, how they pick up on the fan base and they notice it, like how strong it is and how strong the community is as well, is also a very special thing. A little shout out to the marketing team too that the Canes have, because that they do
Oh, they do
really
great.
good. They're amazing. They're fantastic.
Yeah, they've done a tremendous job. I think everybody over there, I think by and large, has done a really tremendous job. I think they do. They really. We talk a lot about how small market teams, you have to make it personal, right? You have to, because
Yes.
in Boston, there's millions of people in the city of Boston. Like Raleigh doesn't have that. Raleigh
No.
and the surrounding area doesn't have that. So the only way to make it work is to make people care. And the way you make people care is by making it personal. So that's really something that just really resonates, I think, with small market teams and
Hmm.
teams like the Hurricanes. So really cool story. When people want to find you, like, are you open for commissions? If you are, like, how do they get a hold of you? Why don't you give us social media? How can people track you down, find your art, find what's for sale, maybe pay you some money to do something custom? Like where do people find you at?
Perfect. So currently I am in a little bit of a transition with my job. I recently took on a new job, and so I've kind of put commissions on hold for a little bit, fortunately. However, I do
That's
have an
fair.
Etsy shop where I have a nice little array of prints. I have some little stickers as well, and I've been I haven't really been working on adding to it right now, because I've been trying to figure out my life and just kind of get into a routine again because it got thrown off a little bit. But I'm always open to suggestions as far as players that I should add or sticker ideas that you might want to see. Always open to that, especially at this point where I don't have commissions open, because I I love sharing with people and I love being able to connect with people in that way. So it just keeps it open for me.
So
So
what's
my
the Etsy
Etsy,
shop? Because
yeah.
that's where they can get their Ghost Bear stickers, right?
Yes, yes, yes. The Etsy is It's Mads Art, and then that is the same handle across everything. So Instagram, Twitter, Threads, if you use that. I haven't touched
All
it
7 people
since.
who use Threads, yeah.
Yeah. And then Tumblr as well. We were digging way deep with that one, but Tumblr too.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
you don't see that as much
I don't
anymore.
no. I think I also have a Reddit with It's MadsArt, but I don't know if I've posted to that. I created it and then
Twitter and Etsy are those like the principal places people should look for you. Is that fair to say?
yeah, and then Instagram as well. Twitter is usually where I'll post the product photos, but I also love just throwing my little thoughts out there, like random nonsense throughout the day, because that's a huge thing for me. Just being able to connect with the people that are supporting me, it means the world. I don't take it for granted. It's something that I adore and I'm very thankful for. And so being able to connect with the people supporting me there, just throwing out nonsense and then treating them like my best friend. That's kind of like my philosophy. Everyone gets treated like my best friend.
That's all. I love that. That's I mean, that's what Ray and I are hopefully here to do, is help connect Caniacs together, right?
Yeah.
And it's, you know, we're there are so few of us compared to the Bruins or the Rangers or the Leafs. Like, you know, we kind of got to stick together. So a little hockey news just in general, you know, so it's not all Madeline. It's like 99% Madeline. But, welcome Caleb Jones as our 9th defenseman. Clearly Don Waddell has something in the works, because we're not carrying 9 defensive contracts. Unless they're going to like move Burns to the wing again or something. Maybe we'll go back to Burns as a forward. The preseason schedule is out. They are doing the split squad thing where half the team will be in Florida and half the team will be in Raleigh, which is, haven't seen that in a while. So that's to look forward to. And then next Saturday, I think it is the yard sale. So the 19th from 8 to 2. If you're a season ticket holder, get there early. If you're not one, find one if you want anything really good. Any chance you're going to the yard sale?
I do not think so.
No.
I don't.
Okay.
I live like 2 hours out from
Well,
Raleigh.
you're 10 hours closer than me. I mean, so
that's fair.
Let me ask you this then. Hypothetically, you're first in line at the yard sale. There are sticks, gloves, pants, sign stuff, photos, pucks, you name it, it's for sale. What are you going for? And if it's for a specific player, like, you know, what is it you're grabbing first if you're the first person in line?
I want a stick so bad. I don't know how I would ever get one in any other context, but I would definitely want a stick. I'm not sure who from. Honestly, just having one would be great, but definitely would go for a stick and maybe a jersey. That's all. I'm not very picky. I just want like one special
a stick from somebody who plays the game. Hey, that's fair. That sounds great, actually. So, thank you very much, Madeline, for coming to talk to me today. Ray, I know, wishes he was here. Unfortunately, timing doesn't always work. He lives on the West Coast. I live on the East Coast, and neither of us are in Raleigh, so nothing happens, right? So, but thank you for your time.
Of course.
Come back and talk to us sometime. Maybe when Ray is here. Maybe once life calms down a little bit, you know, and you have some new Carolina Hurricanes related art, certainly tag us, right? We'll be happy to help spread the word, because you make some really amazing stuff. My son has seen your stickers, and I know that like his collection of stickers he wants keeps growing, and I'm like, yeah, some stickers for everybody. So,
yes.
But thank you so much for coming on. We really do appreciate it.
So. Thank you for inviting me. I was so excited. I was like, yay! Of course I want to be on. So thank you. I appreciate
you are
it.
Our first guest of season 4.
Oh,
Ray's not even here. So Ray hasn't even joined season 4 yet. So you're ready by at least a week.
Oh, wow.
So thank you again for coming to talk to me tonight. Very cool story. Can't wait to hopefully maybe see some Stanley Cup stuff from you by this time next year. But we'll have to wait and see on that. So, and we always end the program. Ray normally says, "Hey, Brad, it's, you know, we talked about this, we talked about that. Is there anything else?" And then we typically try and end with a Go Canes. We'll pretend like this is all like impromptu, right? So, let's see, Mads. We talked about art, comic books, My Chemical Romance. You know, moving over to oil painting. Is there anything else that we forgot?
I don't think so.
Just Go Canes?
Go Canes.
Go Canes.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Ray and I greatly appreciate your support in helping us produce an informative and fun podcast. As always, we'd like to say that we believe hockey is for everyone. Whether you're a Caniac or a bunch of jerks, doesn't matter, as we're just a couple of jerks anyway. We would love to hear your questions, comments, and suggestions. We will do our best to answer anything hockey related. You can reach us via email at stormcellar97@gmail.com. On Twitter, we are at stormcellar97, and on Facebook at facebook.com/stormcellar97.